I am Melissa Lawson. I am a school counselor and athletic director at Science Leadership Academy at Beeber High School. We are a school that only has 3 teachers of color. I want to first start off by saying that it is an honor to sit before you as an educator of our amazingly resilient children in the city of Philadelphia. Secondly, I want to say that becoming an educator is a calling and one that shouldn't be taken lightly. I'm in my 14th year of that call as an educator, all of which have been with the School District of Philadelphia. In my 14 years, I've seen the SRC and the School District of Philadelphia decimate the vibrant and robust educational system that we once knew through budget cuts, massive layoffs, forced transfers, school closures, charter school expansion, and facilities neglect. Schools like Bartram, which was my first assignment and my mother's alma mater, had 2,100 students when I first joined the district in 2003, and now they have under 600 students. Their constantly dwindling enrollment resulted in layoffs and forced transfers of dedicated educators that students had become accustomed to. I was in that forced transfer number after 8 years at Bartram High School. Educator turnover in schools like Bartram are internalized by students like the foster care system. They lose faith in the system by being bounced around from teacher to teacher and principal to principal, so they never adapt because they fear that the person that they bond with could be stripped away. Sometimes educators are the only parental figure that a student may know, and in recent years, many of their parental figures were removed from their lives through no fault of their own, but simply sent away through bureaucracy. Prior to the massive layoffs of 2013, there were over 500 counselors, which allowed for multiple counselors in each school. After the layoffs, that number was cut in half, and many schools currently only have 1 counselor, and in many cases, there could be multiple counselors depending on the enrollment. The counseling ratios are as high as 900 to 1, which makes it very difficult to address all of the needs of the students in a timely fashion and have left many of the relationships that were built between the counselor and the students broken. Many of my colleagues were forced to look for work outside of the profession, and when openings became available once again for counselors 3 years later, they turned them down because they had lost faith in our district, and quite frankly, they'd lost faith in the once stable profession of education. Through the budget cuts came a stalemate with the teacher's contract that led to 4 years of working with no step increases or raises. And during that time, I've seen many of my colleagues leave the district and the profession because their lifestyles weren't sustainable with the pay that we are currently receiving. Many had gotten master's degrees through the contract freeze and were paid as a new teacher with a bachelor's degree, and that's such a significant difference in pay. Teachers are coming to school burnt out and tired from working 2 jobs just to stay afloat to pay their non-reimbursed master's degree and that they've just earned and continue being an effective educator day in and day out. Many teachers who were frozen close to the top of the pay scale feel like they are handcuffed to the district because they would have to start from the bottom or take a pay cut in some of the surrounding districts. Students are watching their teachers push through day in and day out, and they often ask if we are okay when it really should be the other way around. Morale is low and resources are scarce, especially in high needs districts, the schools, where teacher turnover is high and staffing is a challenge. Teachers are constantly looking for more stable work environment where they feel respected, can be creative, innovative, and supported. But as soon as they get into that rhythm, the administration is almost often turned over, which continues the vicious cycle and ultimately causes the educator to leave the district altogether to find that stability. Administrators have a hard job trying to raise morale when they know that their teachers are coming to school without adequate resources needed to teach their classes, such as paper, current edition textbooks, and working technology in the classroom. These are essential things that the district has failed to provide, along with up-to-date curriculums and course offerings that actually match the students' interests. Teachers are coming out of their pocket to ensure that students have what they need to be successful. And teachers can be found staying late and coming in early to ensure that they are prepared for instruction and to often support students and families through tutoring or school clubs that fill the void of programs that have been cut district-wide without receiving any compensation at all. It's hard to attract and retain teachers in environments like this, when nearby districts are providing all of these resources. As I mentioned earlier, being an educator is a calling. So with that calling, the real reward is not in the paycheck, but in bringing out the greatness in children and watching them become successful, productive citizens in the world with our support and encouragement. There is nothing like attending college graduations for former students, weddings, or seeing them at their place of business and them telling you that you've made a difference in their lives. I've chosen to stay in the school district of Philadelphia through all of this because when I look at my students, I see myself. I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia, was a first-generation college student, and chose to come home and help to change the circumstances of the students in my community. And as an educational role model, I believe that I stand on the shoulders of the educators of color who helped to shape me. Many of the educators that I've come across as a student were also members of my community and took pride in being an educator. The way that I see it, somebody took a chance on me and didn't give up the call to educate, no matter what the circumstances were in the district in the 80s and 90s. So I will stay here and continue to fight for the educational future of our children. But I want the school district to recognize all of the fighters that are here for these children and support us with resources, adequate staffing, adequate pay, and curriculum improvements that will attract and retain other amazing educators like the ones that help to shape their futures as well as mine. Thank you.